All right, tonight's the NHL Draft, and here's the best odds for the number 1 overall pick. You can see Kingston's Shane Wright overwhelming at a minus 250. Slavkovsky might be, if you're looking for value, the way to go if you want to put a wager on who will go second to none in this draft. All right, yes, tonight brings the NHL Draft. It comes from Montreal. And oh, by the way, the Montreal Canadiens have the first overall pick, 1 year removed from playing in the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's bring in former NHLer and HQ hockey analyst Alan May for some perspective. And Alan, the Habs are said to be still mulling who to take with that top pick. I heard today they were meeting with Slavkovsky. What might be a dynamic center, and Shane Wright is in front of them, a huge power forward in Slavkovsky, who was outstanding in the Olympics, and the top-ranked American Logan Cooley, all options for that top pick. I'm not sure I buy Montreal's not focused on a specific player, but if it was your call, which way would you go at one?
I would go with both of them. I would find a way to trade with the New Jersey Devils and get the second pick as well. And I heard in the last few days that is very possible. That is something that could very well happen. But when I look at, there's so much pressure for Canadian teams to draft Canadian players. And so when I look at this, Shane Wright is kind of a no-brainer. He is kind of they're talking about Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci type of center. And that's high praise. He's a young kid. He's been in the spotlight. And one of the things that's really hurt him, and one of the problems I have with the draft is the North American players, specifically the players who play in the Canadian Hockey League, are over-scrutinized. You see every single game that they play, preseason, postseason, any tournaments, and you're kind of picking them apart. When you go over to Europe, you're saying, yes, he's a great skater. Yes, he's a great playmaker. But when you start to see a player every game, he can be -6 one night, and all of a sudden you've got a bad look at him. I look at Shane Wright. He's a very complete hockey player. One of the things that has hurt him the last year is that he missed an entire season of hockey. A lot of the European players in the leagues, players were able to play, so they got a leg up. And that 17, 18-year-old league is so important for improvement. And we look what he was able to do this season, getting back on the ice. He still led his team, was a phenomenal player. So right now, to me, I say that Montreal Canadiens have to go with Shane Wright, but don't sleep on the fact that they have a lot of players. They're in salary cap hell, and they need to move money out. So they could move out some names that there's some coveted players. Josh Anderson with them, a right winger who's at about $5.6 million per season. He's locked in for about 5 or 6 more years. He's the type of guy you could trade to entice the team to exchange that pick with you. And then you'd have this great big winger, Slavkovsky, who is absolutely spectacular, was incredible at the World Championships, even better at the Olympics. 18 years old, most valuable player at the Olympics. So when you look at all the things the attributes that he's had, and it's funny, now they're starting to pick him apart a little bit because we've seen him play so much.
Yeah, it's kind of like the paralysis with overanalysis, if you will. You're always going to, if you look at it enough, you're going to find some flaws, though. This is a draft not plentiful, though, Alan, with high-end goaltenders, but does have a host of terrific defensemen, certainly an area of need for the New Jersey Devils. The thought is that if the Habs take Wright, the Devils will jump at Slavkovsky. It would be interesting, though, if Wright is not the first pick, which way New Jersey goes. There's a pair of highly rated blue liners that are expected to go in the top 5. The Devils have picked at the front end of this draft a lot in recent years. If you're making the call for them, which way would you lean if you can't have both those two players you just said, but you have to go one way?
Well, with the two centers that they have, Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, Slavkovsky would be a great fit. Those are two playmakers that can get up and down the ice. Then you go Slavkovsky. But you look at the defenseman, I think Nemec is probably the most talented player in the draft right now when you're talking about defensemen. And he's a guy that you definitely take a look at. Great skills in all areas, great size, and a player that can get up and down the ice. And all the highlights I've seen of him have been unbelievable. He's been playing pro in his hometown. So you look at these kids that are overseas, they've been getting a lot of games, and they're playing. Their stats don't always reflect how good they truly are because they're playing in adult leagues and they're still junior players. They're playing against guys that are 30, 35 years old, full-grown men. And these players get out there, but he has stood out in pretty much every single game I've heard that the scouts have been at. A fabulous skating ability. So he's definitely a player that teams are chomping at the bit to make sure, and hopefully he drops down so other teams can grab him.
So, Alan, you kind of touched on this at the outset. Uncertainty is a word connected to this draft for a variety of reasons. Because of COVID in recent years, evaluation of players has been spotty. Many teams don't have the same boards with regards to how they view prospects. They haven't been able to see some of these prospects in person. So those boards are going to look different. Then there's the issue surrounding Russian prospects, a concern if and when teams might be able to get those players to the States once selected. All that said, what might be an intriguing prospect that you can think of that may not be at the top of mock drafts, but will be a household name in the not too distant future?
Well, it's always so tough, but I just look at the defensemen that are out there, and there are so many players right now. I just had a name that I was going over with a lot of different players this morning, Juracek, that is a player on a lot of people's lists. And when you look at Juracek, he's another big, giant right-handed defenseman, and that's something that you look at around the National Hockey League. They always want the bigger players. And you look at that, a guy that can skate, that's a right-handed defenseman, those are few and far behind. And David Juracek is one of those guys, I think, that a lot of people, when you see the highlight reels on him, and the fact that, once again, here's another player that's played 3 years of pro hockey in his homeland, in Czechoslovakia, that you can look at and say, all of a sudden, everyone's thinking Moritz Seider with the Detroit Red Wings. And all of a sudden, would he be the first guy picked in his draft again? And once again, big right-handed mobile defenseman, 6'3", 6'4", that can get up and down the ice, that are great in transition forwards and backwards. Those are the types of players you want to build your team around. So I think Juracek is going to be one of those guys as well. Once again, playing with adults, full-grown men like 25 to 30 years old in the pro leagues. And there's a lot of lessons there. The coaches aren't necessarily easier on those players. They have to earn their ice time. And to me, he would be the guy. And when you get back to the Russians, I really don't think any of them will be going in the first round. It would be an absolute PR nightmare right now. We've seen the press go after some of the teams for some of the picks the last few seasons, that there was some controversy involved, and then the teams end up reneging their picks. So I don't think we'll see Russian players go in the first round, probably not the second round. And who knows when they start to trickle down. But it could be a while till they get over, with so much uncertainty in the world with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, that right now, with all the things we're hearing in the news, we don't know if they're character assassinations, what's going on with some of the current National Hockey League players. I think it's a really tough time to draft a Russian player up top and use those picks, because we do not know when the NHL will allow that to happen, and when they can actually come over here and play if they don't have a current NHL contract and visa.
Yeah, no doubt, Alan. Alan, you just talked about the fact that there could be, maybe Montreal getting the top 2 players, some deals involving that. There's been rumors already. How about Alex DeBrincat of the Blackhawks, possibly New Jersey giving up the second pick for him? He's been an awfully productive goal scorer. Would you swipe that second pick for a player like that?
I would, every pick. Right now, I think Alex DeBrincat is one of the most entertaining, exciting hockey players in the National Hockey League. And this is a guy that was doubted for so many years, and he's a 50-goal scorer every single year in junior, a guy that didn't get a lot of respect. But when I look at the Chicago Blackhawks, there's 2 players that stand out. Patrick Kane, who's been a human highlight reel since he got in the game, and Alex DeBrincat. He just has great chemistry with him, but I think he could have great chemistry with any center in the National Hockey League. He's phenomenal on the power play. He is a lot like, he's a better version of Cole Caulfield, who's with the Montreal Canadiens right now. I love his skating ability, everything that he can do with the puck. So absolutely, he's a guy worth trading for, because you know that he's going to work out. New Jersey Devils also have a ton of cap space. They've got Jack Hughes locked up. They've got Nico Hischier locked up. This is a guy you could lock up, and he's going to have a huge contract coming his way in a season. I think he's well worth the dollars that are going to go his way, because he will be productive. He's been healthy by and large as long as he's been in the National Hockey League. But I think he's also a guy that earns, regardless of what he's getting paid, he earns his money every single game that he puts those skates on and plays.
Yeah, a known commodity. You already know what he's done in the league. Our thanks to HQ hockey analyst Alan May. Alan, if I don't get a chance to talk to you, enjoy the summer. Always good chatting. Here's a look at teams with the top 10 picks. Keep in mind, trades we just referred to happen with veteran players, and several of these top 10 picks could be on the move, but it's the Kraken and Flyers who round out the top 5.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.